Do you always want to start making music in Logic Pro X but don't know where to start with the digital audio workstation? Well, guess what? Today I'll do a very brief tutorial on Logic Pro X on how to get started as beginners. By the end of this video, y'all will be able to use Logic Pro X confidently. What's good, friends of the internet? It's Vibe Synthetic, your wave producer, bringing you the best tutorials, production tips and tricks, and also bringing you inspiration for music through my wave music. Now today we are going to talk about the basics of getting started with Logic Pro X. There are so many tutorials out there on the internet, which is quite good, but I'm trying to keep it very brief today so that you can understand and apply these skills in Logic Pro X. Also, in this video, if you watch till the end, I'll be giving out a free Logic Pro resource. So be sure to stay tuned to this video and watch it till the end and have that downloaded so that you can get started with Logic Pro X right away. Now, if you guys are new to my channel, welcome to my channel. Smash that like button, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell button, because whenever I release new useful videos just like this, y'all will get notified. Now let's get started producing in Logic Pro X. Let's go! Now before we dive fully into Logic, first you need to understand the basic workflow of working in a digital audio workstation. Now there's always the setup phase, the arrangement phase or the arranging phase, and also the mixing phase. If you can know where to locate these three things in your DAW, you can not only use Logic Pro X, but you can also use Ableton, FL Studio, Cubase, and etc. because all of them are similar, it's just that the user interface are different. Now, I need to emphasize this because these three things is very important for you to get started in any DAW. In this case, it's Logic Pro X. So let's go to the first part, which is setting up in Logic. Okay, so when you first open up Logic, it's either you load up an empty project or a live loops project. For the sake of this tutorial, I'm just gonna go with the empty project, and then they will tell you like what kind of audio you want to make. Just gonna create one for the sake of this tutorial at the start. So this is what the Logic UI actually looks like. The first very important thing as a musician or a producer who's trying to produce tracks in Logic Pro is to find out where to locate your input and output sources coming into your digital audio workstation. So once that is set up, you will also need to set up your project tempo and your project key. So these three things are the basics to start off in Logic Pro when it comes to making your first song. Okay, so as I stated, setting up in Logic is very important. The first thing you need to do is to go to Logic Pro, Preferences, Audio, and this is where you can set up your output and input device. I don't have a audio interface set up at this specific point of time. But if you do, it will appear here as a sound card. Input device is also your audio interface if you want to use your mic. So you can select your audio interface, but for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going for a built-in output and built-in microphone input straight from my laptop over here. The next thing that you need to know is your LCD display at the top here. This is what is going to tell you a lot of information about your music project. Mine is customized to have the tempo and have the timing at the top. You can always customize it over here. Just right click, customize control bar and display. And then you can even add the key signature or the time signature. And you can see that the top of your LCD display expands. This is where you set up your project tempo and project key in the setup phase. So you got your audio setup and you have your project key and project tempo setup. Now, I guess the ones on the left and right are pretty self-explanatory. The left one shows your playhead options where you can play, pause, stop, and even record, and can turn on the cycle mode. And then on the right here, you do have your metronome. When you turn it on, whenever you do your recording, you'll hear a metronome sound. And 1, 2, 3, 4, if you see this icon on the right, is basically counting in to your recording time. So when this is on, when you hit record, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it comes in like that. Anyway, record is R on the keyboard, so yeah, just for you guys to know. So now you already have your input and output devices set up in Logic Pro together with your project key and template. What's next? Well, as I mentioned earlier, after the setup phase, it is the arrangement phase. Now during the arrangement phase, you need to locate where you can create tracks in Logic. In this case, you can create audio tracks or software instrument tracks. And these tracks will appear in the Logic's user interface timeline. Let's have a look.
Now for arrangement phase, you need to locate where your tracks are and what kind of tracks do you want to record. So in Logic, there are two ways to do this. One is to record audio, the other one is to record MIDI. So MIDI are like programmable notes that you can use to read your software instruments. So how do you create an audio track? If you look at this track side, you see on the left there's a plus icon. Click on it. It gives you the prompt where you can select a software instrument, audio, etc. You choose an audio track and then the input, make sure it's from your audio interface. In this case, I don't have one, so it's just input one. The output is also should be going to the audio interface, and you can just create. In each of these tracks, right, you can mute them, you can solo, you can record, for record, that means it's ready for record. You can lock this so that no one can touch the levels of your track, and you can have input monitoring. So if I turn this off, you don't see any of the green bars going up because you're not monitoring it, but when I turn it on, you can see my voice monitoring. And then of course on the right, you can see the panning where you can pan to the right and pan to the left. You can always double click and have your input. Right now the panning is at 0. So the next track that you want to set up, if you want to load your own synth or any Logic Pro X stock plugin synth, you can always click again on the plus icon, go to software instrument, and for this case it's loaded with retro synth. You want to change the instruments, head over to the left. As you can see, the input right now is retro synth. If you click on the drop down, these are all your stock Logic Pro synthesizers or drum kits, you want to call it. You can always load them up. So example, I want to load a drum synth on a stereo track. Now this is actually a drum synth that you can use to sculpt your drums, like for example kicks, snares, percussion, and third-party synths. I do have some of my synths over here. I do have Massive from Native Instruments. So this is a wavetable synthesis that I use a lot in some of my projects. But yeah, so that's the difference between a software instrument and a audio track. So if you drag and drop a sample, that's what the audio track does. It reads audio samples as well. This is what an audio track looks like. It comes with audio regions, while for software instruments, it comes with a MIDI region where you can actually set up your keys. You can create a note. See the difference between a MIDI track and a audio track. So these are the two basics that you need to know before writing a song or before getting into Logic Pro's production.
You are almost there making your first hit. Now is the last part of Logic's workflow, which I mentioned earlier, from the setup phase to the arrangement phase, and now what's next? The mixing phase. Now the mixing phase, you just need to locate where your mixer is, where you can apply effects and adjust levels of your overall tracks that are found in your Logic project. Now let's dive into that.
The next thing you want to talk about in Logic Pro is actually finding your mixer so that you can mix all these tracks with their levels or send effects or even add effects. In Logic, the stock shortcut for opening up your mixer is X, and you can see the mixer window basically ready for mixing. You can actually have all your tracks here seen on a channel strip track just like this, and you can actually adjust all the levels within the channel strip track itself. As you can see, it corresponds with your track timeline. Whatever levels you change, you can see it change on the mixer. Basically, the mixer is a place where you can send audio effects. You can have audio effects into your mixer. Like for example, I'm just going to load a distortion plugin from Logic. Just click on audio effects and you can load all your effects over here. You can also send effects, which I'm not going to talk about today because this is another tutorial that I feel that needs to be explained further in depth. You can also send the output of your tracks to another bus as well. For now, it's going out to stereo output. Stereo output basically is this pink colored track that you can see. All of these 3 tracks are going to stereo output. It shows you the overall levels of your track. And then you can also send groups. Hold shift and click to select all of your tracks and hold it, and you can create a new group, and all of them is in one group. So if you change the levels for one item, they will change the rest as well. So that's pretty neat in Logic Pro. The mixing view is very important for you to understand where and how your tracks are laid out, where are they going, which bus are they going, which output they are going, and of course you can always add effects like I mentioned earlier. If you look on the left, this is like a mixer window as well. If you click on each of your track, they will tell you in detail what kind of effects are they in, what kind of instruments that they are currently having as an input, and what kind of groups. It's the same thing as you see in the mixer window, it's just that it focuses on one track. This is called the inspector panel. Over here you can turn it off with the I button or on. So this is very useful for producers trying to reference the tracks that's available in their timeline.
So let's recap of what we learned today in Logic Pro X. The three phases are the setup phase, where you need to set up your audio interface, your project tempo, project key, and then your arrangement phase, where you need to set up tracks so that you can record audio or MIDI patterns. And the third one will be the mixing phase, where you can actually mix your tracks, adjust the levels, and send effects. Now, these three concepts are very important when working with Logic so that you can start making your music confidently within the software. One more thing, this is a bonus because I do have a Logic Pro X beginners template all set up for you to download in the description box below. Now let's look at the template and how it can make your life easier as a producer or musician starting out in Logic Pro. Let's go.
Basically, I've already set up the different kind of tracks that are essential to making your first song. So the first one is called the audio sample track, and then I do have the virtual drum kit track, where I've loaded a drum machine stock plugin from Logic, where all of your drum samples are actually routed to each individual track so that you can mix them easily in your mixer. You can always double click on the drum machine VST and drag them. Aside from the drum machine, I also have a virtual instrument machine where I've loaded the retro synth. This is a Logic stock synth plugin where you can play retro or like classic synthesizers. It's pretty neat, color coded with pink as an audio region, purple and green for drums and synth that receives MIDI note. And lastly, there's the stereo out track that I've already created in orange. When you look on the right, there is a note that I've written out for all beginners to start again with Logic. In the project note is for everything for your project. They will tell you all the shortcuts that I wrote over here, which is, R for record, C for cycle, X for mixer panel, P for your piano roll, and then you know how to set up your recording in terms of your audio interface, how to get playback. And then there's also the track settings, where whenever you click each of these tracks, they will tell you what are these tracks. I specifically took the time to write down all this so that you guys can understand Logic itself when starting out. So like for example, the audio sample, it tells you how to record audio regions or add audio regions. For the virtual drum kit, it will tell you what is this drum kit track, what is the summing track, because this drum kit is having 4 tracks within it that you can control the overall output to a new send. And for virtual instrument, it's also the same thing. You can assess how to assess the other instruments, what kind of instrument track is this, and all the best shortcuts and quick tips I've already written down in this notes panel. This project template has already been saved and you guys can download it for free. If you like it, it's in my description box below.
And that's it. I hope you guys find this video very short and concise when it comes to introducing to Logic Pro X. Just remember the 3 phases in Logic when starting up a project: the setup, the arrangement, and the mixing phase. And that's it I have for you guys today. So if you really like my video, remember to smash that like button, subscribe to my channel, hit that bell button so that you guys can get notified of my new videos. Well, it's Vibe Synthetic. Hope to see you guys on the next one. I'm signing out. Peace.